gentlemen, welcome back to the Cricket News podcast. It's just me and Zac today. James is busy. One of us is obviously feeling better about today than the other. Zac, how are you doing?
Excellent after today's games, but as you can see, I'm in a different location. I'm on holiday in Cornwall, so that's why the lighting looks awful and the sound isn't as good as it has been the last few episodes, but there we go.
It's okay. It's Cricket News moving above and beyond to provide the content. That's the important thing. So double-header today. First game with CSK versus Sunrisers, where Sunrisers won that game and actually looked convincing, I would say. And then Mumbai versus RCB, and again RCB, I'd say quite comfortably won that game as well. Looked fantastic. Let's just break both of the games down quickly though. So Chennai versus Sunrisers. Chennai batted first. Sunrisers chose to field. And it's the same story for Chennai, really. Like, the batting just hasn't really been very good. Uthapar and Gaikwad, again, didn't really fire at the top. Moeen hit a sort of 48 runs, a bit of a cameo, but strike rate was quite low. And then no one else really scored many runs. It wasn't really very impressive, really, considering the depth of Chennai's batting, which, you know, might just be good bowling from Sunrisers. Zach, what did you think about the Chennai innings and the Sunrisers bowling?
I think you need to remember that Sunrisers, although we think they have a pretty weak team compared with the other weak teams, they do have quite a strong bowling attack. That's their strength. So having the likes of Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Marco Jansen, Washington Sundar, they are good bowlers, and Natarajan at the end as well. He's a great death bowler. He can nail his Yorkers more often than not. So they have decent bowling, and it is hard to get away. But then Chennai's batting, we said at the start of the tournament they're going to be missing something, and they are missing something because Robin Uthapar, although he's a good batsman and he's proven himself over the years, he's not as good as he once was. Ruturaj Gaikwad hasn't managed to carry on his form from last season, which is really disappointing. Ambati Raidu, similar to Robin Uthapar, that's a similar sort of player. And Shivram Dubey, he's not consistent enough. We've seen good things from him in the last few games, but he's not a consistent performer. And I think that lower middle order, which is also really good for Chennai, should be their strength in Jadeja, Dhoni, Dwayne Bravo. And then they have Chris Jordan coming in at 9. Then they're not being utilised in the right way, and I think that's what's letting them down. They need to be utilised better. Maybe they send one of them up the order, whether it's Dwayne Bravo, whether it's Ravindra Jadeja, to put some of that firepower back into the innings. And I think that's what you're missing, Benj, really, from Chennai. And I can see the frustration, really, because you're looking at them and you're thinking, you need to push on now. You need to push on now. And they're just not doing it. So it was a bit easy for Sunrisers. What did you think of their batting, especially Abhishek Sharma, who we're not really talking about much?
I was really impressed with Abhishek Sharma. I'm actually glad that he's, sort of come out and showed some class. I mean, 75 or 50, he looked fantastic. And like, if you just look at the pure stats, Abhishek Sharma had a strike rate of 150, which was higher than the whole of the Chennai top 5. And 7, the only one out of actually our top 7 was Jadeja, who was striking at 153. And, Dhoni didn't look very settled. I mean, Dhoni doesn't hit 6s until the last innings. He was obviously trying to do a bit of a repair and protect innings, Dhoni. But Sharma came out and, he played really well. And it's nice to see, a player, a young player who has taken a while to sort of get into their stride, now actually kick on and put a performance in. A bit like how Gaikwad did last season. But it's just interesting with now the hype around Gaikwad and Venkatesh Iyer, those two in particular, coming into this year. They've not quite delivered. It'll be interesting to see if he can carry on at that top level. Because I mean, that's what it takes, isn't it? Like, you've got to come in, impress, and then kick on at that top level. Kane Williamson did a classic Kane Williamson innings. I think that was nothing more than we would expect. And then Tripathi and Nick Pooran came in to just finish off the innings. And I think it was good. Obviously, with the batting of Sunrisers, it's highlighting Chennai's other big problem. So the big problem that it's taking too long to score runs with their top order batting. There's also no wickets in the power play. Like that's a big issue for Chennai at the minute. Like the first wicket didn't fall until the 12th over, and when you're defending a score of 150, you need those wickets to sort of swing that game back into your favour. And I know I've said over and over again that Chennai are missing Deepak Chahar, but they really are. That money that they invested into that top order player, they could have bought 2 or 3 Indian bowlers. They could have bought an extra overseas player or a different overseas player or a more expensive overseas player, but they had to go in with that investment. And I think one of the big reasons that Chennai won last year was because they had those 2 fantastic opening bowlers in Deepak Chahar and Sardal Thakur. And with neither of them in the team this year, you can see that's definitely missing. I mean, Chris Jordan being your open bowler is not what you want at all. Like you want him to be that death over specialist. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a struggle of a year for Chennai. I'm sitting here and hoping that they're going to come through and do something. I'd love them to do something, but yeah, you can see that there's this issues going on there. I was quite impressed with is it Tashankar? I think is how we say his name.
Thikshana.
Manesh Thikshana.
Mahit Thikshana, yeah.
There you go. Anyway, he bowled quite well in the power play. They're finally listening to us. They're clearly watching the podcast because they're bowling that spin in the power play that I think was quite good. Same, I think. Did Hasaranga bowl a power play over as well? Potentially.
Yes, he did, although it didn't go well.
Yeah. So it's nice to see those overs of spin in the power play. And it'll be interesting to see if that continues to make a difference.
Yeah, I think before we get on to talk about the Royal Challengers game, I just want to quickly highlight the fact that Chennai have done something which a lot of other teams haven't, in that they haven't picked up replacements, because we've said they're missing Deepak Chahar. They really are missing Deepak Chahar. And I think if they had a replacement like a lot of other teams do have for their big name players, if they miss out, then they would have been in a lot better situation. But you're right, power play wickets are massive. But I think it's good for Sunrisers in terms of giving players like Rahul Tripathi, who they're putting there's a lot of pressure on him to do well in that middle order for Sunrisers, who don't have much batting. And then also Abhishek Sharma, giving those young guys confidence will really benefit Kane Williamson, I think, in giving him that confidence in his players, so he doesn't have to play such a slow innings. And yeah, they're just waiting for Nick Pooran to fire. He only faced 2 balls today. That's all he needed. But yeah, maybe in future games we'll see a bit more from him.
So there we are. We're being the charity case. Yes. I think Abhishek Sharma is the obvious hero. Again, I think villain-wise, there's not a lot more to say. I can't really pick one from the Chennai side. Lack of power play wickets, that's my villain for Chennai, for a Chennai perspective. I do want to just say one last thing on this game. I think it's potentially harsh of Chennai to have already dropped Dwayne Pretorius, who looked like one of the best bowlers for Chennai so far. I think they potentially are trying to get an out-and-out frontline spinner, which is why Thashankar has made his way into the team. But yeah, it just seemed like a bit of a questionable decision there, because he seemed to be one of the only players that was, regularly taking wickets. But we'll see what happens. I think Chennai definitely need to go through a bit of a restructure, a bit of a rethink, and try and come back strong in the next game and at least try and pick up a win. That would be nice.
Yes.
What about you? Here is villains before we talk about RCB.
I think a villain is probably. I don't know if Dwayne Pretorius has got a niggle. He might have got a niggle. Maybe the people in the comments will be able to let us know that. to confirm that. But yeah, that would be a massive villain move, not picking Dwayne Pretorius. And yeah, Abhishek Sharma, definite hero. And also Washington Sundar, he's proven himself this tournament. 2 for 21, excellent figures. Didn't have to do anything with the bat, but he can also do some good things with that, as we've seen. So yeah. So let's move on to another team who hasn't won a game. Mumbai Indians, still winless, and yeah, they seemed okay at times, Mumbai Indians, but the mighty Royal Challengers, the team to beat, as we've coined, just doing good things again and again and again. Because 50 without loss, Rohit Sharma, who hasn't been in great form this tournament, looking dangerous on 26 or 15, tame dismissal, Harshal Patel working his magic again from the purple cap last year to get him, and then Ishan Kishan fell not so long after for a very unlike him innings of 26 or 28. And then the wheels came off. I think they were 60 for 1 off 8 overs, which is where you kind of want to be. And then they were 62 for 5 off 10 overs. So 2 overs later, they lost 3 wickets and only scored 2 runs. There was a wicket maiden from Akashdeep, who for the first time has looked good with the ball and also not gone for many runs. So that's a massive tick. And then Wanindo Hasaranga de Silva he's a class act with his leg spin. The googlies, he bowls a lot of googlies, and their magic. It's awesome to watch. The one downside for Royal Challengers bowling was Mohammad Siraj, really going at 12.75 and over and not taking any wickets. So he's the only person really in our team at the moment who I have a question mark over, which is awesome to say. So yeah, I'm very, very happy, as you can probably tell from my smile. So yeah, it's great at the moment. Benj, do you want to briefly mention Surya Kumar Yadav before we move on to Royal Challengers?
I think he was probably the only shining light in that innings from Mumbai. Coming in and scoring, a decent 68. I think he's looked good since he's come back. It's a shame that Tilak Verma couldn't create a partnership like they did in the last game together. And it was also sad to see Devol Brevis not go for many as well. But when you've got a bowler like Hasaranga, bowling like a magician, then it's going to happen, isn't it? It was funny to see Karen Pollard get her first ball duck. Maybe a bit harsh, but yeah, that was definitely a turning point in the game. And I think because of that, Mumbai just didn't quite score enough, which led to a very, very good chase from the Royal Challengers. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's nice to see Virat Kohli scoring some runs, Anuj Rawat looking fantastic, and then the finishers in Dinesh Karthik and Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell hitting his first 2 balls of the IPL 2022 for 4s, looking, in his continuing his form from last year. So yeah, you're dying to talk about the batting, Zac. So what went down?
Well, Faf du Plessis, I think he has struggled with the bat this tournament. I know he played really well in that first game, but and I say struggled. He obviously hasn't struggled, but he's not been fluent the last couple of games, and we saw that today. He only hit 1 boundary in his 24 balls, which you don't really want in 2020. You want maybe 1 every 3 or 4 balls or 6 balls even in your innings to go for a boundary. So he kind of was rotating the strike to Anuj Rawat, who seemed to be the aggressor, and he looked awesome. 66 or 47, 6 sixes, strike rate of over 140. And it was a run out which eventually dismissed him, which was sad to see, but because I wanted him to finish the innings and have that sort of confidence going forward. But yeah, I think he's a great buy from Royal Challengers, a really, really good talent. And they've obviously given him the confidence by saying, you're going to be our opening batsman for the entire tournament, and we'll see how you do. And you look at the batsman either side of him, you couldn't have a better 2 with Faf du Plessis coming in first and then Virat Kohli coming in after. to provide that support. And Kohli looked very close to his best, and that was also amazing to see. And then just finishing it off, like you said, Glenn Maxwell, two balls in the tournament, 2 fours, and Dinesh Karthik was seeing what he can do. So, and we still had David Willey, Shahbaz Ahmed, Hasaranga, Harshal Patel to come. So yeah, I don't want to jinx it by saying we're looking at the finished article, but we are looking very dangerous at this stage of the tournament. And to make the likes of Jasprit Bumrah look pretty ordinary, I think that shows the quality that we've got at this point in time.
And this is still without Josh Hazlewood.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Josh Hazlewood that's an interesting point? Probably not for right now to discuss, but does he get into that team with David Willey bowling the way that he is in the power play, keeping that pressure on, and allowing wickets to go the other end? I mean, we can definitely talk about that at some point, and it'll be interesting to see what RCB do. But yeah, I agree, looking fantastic. Do you have any particular heroes and villains?
I think the hero is obviously Anand Rawat getting his maiden 50 in IPL cricket. Villain Mohammad Siraj from an RCB point of view, and maybe when Hazlewood comes back in, if they play Hazlewood for Willey, you can use Hazlewood in the power play and the death, whereas Willey would more be in the power play. So you could give the 2 overs that David Willey bowled in the power play, you give to Hazlewood, and then maybe take 2 of Siraj's overs and give them to Hazlewood. So you can maybe see that fit the other way around. And for Mumbai, Surya Kumar Yadav, obvious hero, and Karan Pollard getting a first bowler is the villain in my book.
I think Karan Pollard hasn't looked great all season. I think he's looked shaky. He's tried to be Andre Russell, 2 good mates in the West Indies setup, but yeah, it's just not quite worked for them, has it? I'm going to give Hasaranga a hero for his fantastic bowling, 2 wickets, and Harshal Patel. Both of them look fantastic, and Anand Rawat again for all the reasons that you've said. I mean, there's not really anything from a bowling perspective from Mumbai to write home about. It really has to only be Surya Kumar Yadav, doesn't it? But we're just outplayed. And I think it's interesting seeing these 2 teams of Mumbai and Chennai who've previously been so dominant in the IPL. Now the playing field has been really leveled. And it's interesting to, see how that's going. And it's been an exciting IPL this year. I think that's a good place to leave it. I think we'll talk more tomorrow when we've got another game. I haven't actually checked it. I think it's KKR tomorrow. Let me double check. It's KKR versus the Delhi Capitals tomorrow, so that should be an interesting game. Oh, there's 2 games tomorrow, and also
double header. Yes.
Also Rajasthan Royals versus Lucknow Super Giants. So it's a double header. Rajasthan looking very good against Lucknow, who've also looked very strong. So that'll be an interesting game to watch. And yeah, KKR against a slightly unconvincing Delhi. But yeah, that'll be coming tomorrow. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're growing loads. Tell your friends. Some of our videos have been getting quite a lot of reach, which is really good to see. A lot of our watchers aren't subscribed. So if you aren't, remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon. It's completely free. And it means that you can see whenever we release a video, it'll be there in your news feed. Follow us on our social media. We're going to do some fun things on there in the near future. Anything else, Zac?
Social media tag is @CricketNerdsPod.
It is. That's it. So, and also, if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, thanks. We'll try and get you some. Well, it is exclusive because it comes out the day before we release the video podcast. So, give us a listen there. Let us know if you're listening on those medium too. So, anyway, I'm rambling. Let's finish. We'll see you tomorrow.